Hello and welcome. My name is Rob. Some of you may already know that. I haven't entirely decided where I'm going to be posting this video, but I wanted to make a video to discuss this particular subject. As a lot of you are probably aware of, Doctor Who Series 11 began yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it. For those of you that know me, you'll know that I'm a really big fan of Doctor Who. So not only is it a big deal that this show is back, it is an even bigger deal because we have a brand new Doctor and a brand new showrunner and entire creative team behind the smash hit phenomenon, which is the longest running sci-fi TV show in the world. I am going to try and cover the episode as neutrally as I can, but just to warn you before you go any further, I will be discussing some spoilerific elements of the episode. I do advise you go and watch it because it's really good, and if you're new to Doctor Who, now is the perfect time to jump on board. So without further ado, let's talk about Doctor Who Series 11 Episode 1, The Woman That Fell to Earth. So, that titular woman, my goodness me, Jodie Whittaker, is a delight. Let's just get this out of the way. There's been this running narrative that there's been this massive uproar against the fact that there was going to be a woman playing the Doctor. I really think that that's more the media kind of exaggerating that and adding to that particular narrative. I think for the most part, everyone has been very accepting of the fact that the Doctor's now going to be played by a woman, because why not? Why not? Like, there's no answer to that really, and as long as that particular actor is right for the role, I think the Doctor, there is a specific thing that that you need to portray as the Doctor, and it's very hard to explain exactly what that is, but I'm sure if you've seen Doctor Who, you probably know what I'm talking about. Regardless, Jodie Whittaker has charisma in spades. She is a delight to watch. It feels really bad comparing her immediately to other Doctors, but the vibe I get is that she has kind of like the quirkiness and charisma and hero factor of David Tennant, mixed with a little bit of the sort of the detachment and alien misunderstandings of certain situations like Matt Smith and Tom Baker, which I absolutely loved. I thought she was a delight. I had every confidence in her to begin with, and I was very happy to see that Chibnall had done us all a favour and put that woman in the forefront of this brand new series. So, like, 10 out of 10, more than 10 out of 10 for Jodie Whittaker. Incredible performance. Often, with new eras of Doctor Who, there is a very different feel, there's a very different tone that is enforced by the new showrunner. And this particular episode is no different. We see an absolute contrast to the seasons that have gone before under Moffat's reign. We can see that an awful lot of money has been given to Doctor Who for this particular season. With less episodes, there are only really 10 episodes in this season. I imagine that they've been able to stretch the funding out a bit more. Also, they have, or reportedly have, all brand new cameras, all brand new crew, all brand new setups. So it's easy to see where, the difference has been made. This episode looks incredible. It looks stunning. We see the sweeping dales near Sheffield, I guess. Like, the episode centers around Sheffield, which is a nice change of pace, because for those of you who remember the Russell T Davies era, most of the stuff happened in London, Cardiff, but they said it was London. So it's nice to see that, other areas of the UK are being explored in Doctor Who, let alone the universe. The UK and Sheffield was the stage in which this first episode is set, and it looks wonderful. We have like shots of sweeping dales, we have a lot of scenes happening at night as well, which I'll get into later, but the show itself just looks gorgeous. The very, very limited elements of CGI that were used in this particular episode were utilized well. For those of you that have had conversations about Doctor Who with me before, one of my main sticking points with New Who, as it were, is when the show comes to rely on CGI but doesn't use it effectively. And I understand that, they have a limited budget sometimes, but come on, it can look a bit naff. But at the end of the day, Doctor Who isn't really about special effects. Even when you go back to the classic era, you will see that there is a more of an emphasis on storytelling and clever writing than trying to be showy and glitzy. You know, when Doctor Who had to compete against Battlestar Galactica, and when Star Wars was coming out, and Star Trek, and basically every other sci-fi franchise that is out there, Doctor Who, the only way it could compete is by telling gripping narratives that have you hiding behind the sofa. I don't know how I've ended up talking about this. I was talking about cinematography. Anyway, the show looks great. So, let's talk about our brand new companions. We have Ryan, we have Yaz, and we have Graham. And the first thing that stuck into my mind was this. Thank God, they're just normal people. No more the girl who waited, no more the impossible girl, no more whatever the hell, you know, was going on before with different companions. You don't need to make them all special. You don't need to have everyone have some mystical destiny weaved into the tapestry of time and space. Some people are just not, you know, some companions are just normal people that just get involved in the whirlwind that is the Doctor's life. And I really, really appreciated that. Well, from first glance, they all seem like just normal people. And that's great because it makes them relatable. That is the entire point of having companions on the journey with the Doctor in the first place, is that they are, you know, the way that we witness the story. The story is being told through their perspective. So really refreshing to see some relatable, normal characters with some particular flaws and misgivings. We have Ryan, who it would seem suffers from dyspraxia, which I thought was a really interesting kind of little detail about his character, that he is uncoordinated and he suffers a lot from that. He can't ride a bike. In one of the opening scenes, we are shown Ryan desperately trying to learn how to ride a bike, but constantly failing, and you know, he's down on his luck and he feels bad about that. And it's just something nice that's put into the episode early that makes you feel for the guy and makes you care about him in the horrors that are yet to come. Yaz seems really, really interesting as well. A female police officer that is wanting more out of her job. She's wanting more out of her experience as a police officer, and she keeps being put onto mundane jobs that she feels, you know, she can give more. She feels there's more out there for her. So we can see that Yaz is going to be quite an ambitious character, I find, which is a really nice detail to have. And then we have Graham, who is portrayed wonderfully by the marvellous Bradley Walsh. I really appreciated this character because he represents something rare in Doctor Who. A number of cases when companions are introduced, they are usually faced with some kind of alien threat, and they immediately join up with the Doctor and they start chasing after aliens and getting thoroughly involved with situations that could not only end their lives, but, you know, could end the lives of everyone on the planet. But Graham, on the other hand, this particular character, is a salt of the earth, down to earth guy who really doesn't want to be involved with that kind of thing. He can see very early on that him and his family have been put into a dangerous situation, a very dangerous situation, and rather than involving himself further with aliens, would like nothing to do with the situation whatsoever. He demands they call the police. He demands that they completely withdraw from this situation and leave this crazy woman who just fell out of the sky to her own devices. And I really appreciated that. A very grounded choice has been made about what Graham's character will represent in the show going forward, as I can see it. Now, the polar opposite to him is his wife Grace. They've been married 3 years, as it says in the show. Grace is a very, very adventurous individual who jumps at the chance of getting involved with such a thing, and that dynamic is really interesting. And we can see how, because of Grace's influence, perhaps Graham will develop into a more adventurous character, perhaps. We've yet to see. Overall, in terms of companions and in terms of supporting characters, really strong to begin with, really refreshing, and, as I said before, grounded in reality. So far, I've managed to talk about this episode without spoiling anything really to do with the plot, but that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about the plot. So, to very, very briefly encapsulate what happens in the episode, while the Doctor has fallen to Earth, a number of other alien creatures have also arrived in the form of Shimshar of the stanza, I believe his name is, this alien warrior that comes from a race of people that like to hunt particular trophies to then take back to their planet and keep them in stasis, keep them in this this balance between life and death. Scary alien. I was very pleased to see that this was an individual in a costume and prosthetics rather than CGI. It also uses, this alien uses this biosynthetic creature, this coil creature as well in its plot to hunt down these particular people. Now, there is a running theme of episodes that feature the introduction of a new Doctor, and invariably the plot kind of takes like a back seat to the Doctor's becoming the Doctor, essentially, and coming out of that regeneration cycle, where we gradually begin to learn more about this new Doctor, this new Time Lord that is going to be gracing our screens for the next few years. This wasn't any different. For the most part, the story itself is driven by the fact that the Doctor is trying to get to grips with who she is. And it did seem a little bit at times like the aliens' plot wasn't particularly well thought out. That's the only sticking point for me about this episode, I think, is that the alien, I'm just calling him the alien seemed to have other means to capture this one particular human that he had a fascination with. I've only seen the episode once, so I could be wrong. I'm going to probably go back and watch it again. But on the first viewing, I didn't get why it specifically had to be that individual. But that's my own fault if I've missed something. But it did seem a little unclear to me why it was this one random guy who happens to operate a crane. Maybe they need crane operators in wherever the alien has come from, I don't know. But yeah, that seemed a little bit strange for me. But to be honest, that is entirely overshadowed by the fact that the Doctor is being reintroduced. Because of that, it didn't really bother me too much. I also forgot to add that although the alien featured is particularly menacing, taking teeth out of the humans and other creatures it slays and fusing it into its face, like a very intimidating creature that I really liked, very, very scary. I also absolutely adored that the Doctor completely misunderstands the alien's name and decides to call him Tim Shaw for the rest of the episode. And I'm very, very pleased to say that that joke never was unfunny. Like, I found it hilarious that this terrifying warrior alien was now known to everyone throughout the canon of Doctor Who now as Tim Shaw. Let's talk about the tone of the show now. Earlier I mentioned visually the tone of the show is very, very strong. Most of the action takes place at night, making it very atmospheric, making it very scary. It also conceals some of that garish CGI that I mentioned about in previous seasons. The coil monster in particular looked great. This really intimidating, roiling mass of electricity and coils sort of slowly pulling its way through a train corridor was really atmospheric and really quite scary, and that's thanks to the wonderful lighting. And so visually, and it really, really helps the tone. Also, there are a number of deaths in this episode, and it's quite refreshing to see that death has an impact in Doctor Who once again. Often we are presented with hordes of soldiers battling Daleks, for example, and people are falling left, right and centre, and it becomes white noise, essentially. But with this episode, we generally lose people that have something to lose themselves, and people will feel that loss. Now, it was a little bit on the nose, but there was a little scene of a security guard towards the climax of the episode. The security guard is clearly a grandparent who receives a video call from their grandchild. And the grandparent actually says, "Oh, it's lovely to hear from you. I love being a grandparent." 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Butchered! Horribly murdered, like that. But I liked it. It was a cheap move, but it still, you know, added weight to the fact that this alien warrior, Tim Shaw, is murdering people. And that gives the show stakes, and it means that when the Doctor is up against something like that, there are stakes and people can be lost. There's also a funeral that takes place in the episode, which, you know, emphasizes that there's danger, there's real danger, and there are consequences for that danger and when it goes wrong. So very pleased to see that, and also some really humanizing elements about the darker kind of tone of the show. One of the characters comes forth and says that, you know, they've recently come out of chemotherapy. They talk about how they've had cancer, which again kind of not only makes them relatable and more human, but you also empathize with them more because of that. So not only are you adding stakes with death, you're also adding empathy with the struggles that everyday humans often struggle against. And it was really refreshing to see that in this episode. One final thing, talking about tone within the episode, it was really nice to see that this new season looks to be really stripped back in terms of the information it delivers about the universe of Doctor Who. And what I mean by that is that of recent years there has been more and more fan service, which sometimes can be really cool, but sometimes it can be a bit too much. And it seems like everything is known about the Doctor Who universe, but this particular episode made the universe feel mysterious again. You know, there wasn't really much referencing of particular different monsters or anything like that. Everything was new, everything was different and strange and scary. And overall, I think that this is probably a great place to start watching Doctor Who if you've never watched an episode, because it reintroduces only the critical elements you need for the story to work. Final few bits and pieces that I just want to mention about the episode. Number one, once again, Jodie Whittaker, absolutely stunning performance, and I really liked that we saw the Doctor building things. We had like again sort of like a harkening back to Tennant with his machine that goes ding, you know, like Jodie Whittaker constructs like an anti-charge device to take out the coil monster, a teleport device to take her essentially to a new place for the next episode, but she also constructs a new sonic screwdriver out of spoons, which I really liked. I really liked that you saw the Doctor forging a new tool for a new era. I really, really appreciated that. That's more of like a fan nod than anything, to show this the sonic screwdriver being, you know, brought back into play, I guess, but appreciated by me regardless. Now, the elephant in the room with this episode is the absence of that famous opening. I was sat there watching it, and Jodie Whittaker appears, and I think, this is where it's going to happen. This is where we're going to see those new title crawls. This is where we're going to hear the brand new theme of Doctor Who. No theme. The entire episode plays without the introductory music whatsoever. There was a little bit of a hint of it when Jodie Whittaker first appears. You hear that dang, 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 dang. But then nothing for the whole episode. And then, finally, when the episode comes to an end, it hits, which I quite liked. And to me, I interpreted that as this first episode almost being like an entire prelude to an episode, if that makes sense. Usually, with Doctor Who, there's kind of like an opening sting where something is set up. Oh, we have 42 minutes before the ship is going to crash into the sun. Go. Doctor Who starts. Okay, that's what this episode felt like to me. It was like one big kind of prelude, introduction, setting up all these different pieces of information, so then when we hit the next episode, bam, there are also other things missing. The Doctor did construct her own sonic screwdriver. However, the TARDIS, time and relative dimension in space, the ship, isn't in the episode. That's another thing that you look forward to with a new episode of Doctor Who. You are like, can't wait to see the new TARDIS. No TARDIS. And I actually really quite like that, because there is a trajectory that this show is taking, which is really new, really interesting, and it isn't predictable. It subverted my expectation, and it now has me even more excited to watch the next episode, because I'm going to get that introductory crawl of the Doctor Who logo, and I'm going to get the introduction to a new TARDIS. Maybe next episode, maybe we won't see it for the whole season. Can you imagine if we don't see it for the whole season? Interesting. We shall see. Anyway, one last thing for brand new composer of Doctor Who, Segun Akinola. I believe I'm saying that right. His work in this episode is incredible. The music is very much of the same feel and tone of the older Doctor Who episodes. The miscellaneous music is strange and unnerving, and it builds tension excellently. And then of course there is the brand new theme, which we do finally hear at the end of the episode, and it is very, very good to see, or rather good to hear, that the original theme is very much at the forefront. It's very, very much synthesized and strange. It's kind of a mixture of, if I want to go into it too much, it's kind of like a mixture of Hartnell's and like the 80s Doctors, like Sylvester McCoy. Like, it felt like that to me, and I was really, really pleased with it. I think it's pretty cool. I think it'll take a little while for it to grow on me as some of the others have, but they always do. So, in conclusion, I absolutely adored The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Jodie Whittaker's introduction to Doctor Who. The episode has me really excited. It has me thinking about what's going to happen next. It has me on the edge of my seat when I was watching it. I really appreciated that I felt incredibly invested in the action that was taking place, and already quite invested with these characters that we barely know. Now the Doctor has been whisked off to a different place with unintentional companions. We didn't have that bigger on the inside conversation. We had an accidental joining of these individuals that will now, I'm sure, have to learn how to work together to survive the next obstacle in the series. But for now, if you've watched this all the way, then well done. I know I go on a little bit, but I absolutely adore the show, and I think I might continue doing these reviews for the rest of the show. Thank you ever so much for watching, and hope to see you again.